I don't believe strategy is anything. Culture beats strategy any day of the week. So when you have the right culture, you're able to execute things based on the strategy.
When we see that it's more of a male-dominated workspace, what advice would you give to the women who are navigating this space here?
Be yourself. Authentic leadership always prevails. I mean, you cannot try to be like a man. You have to be in alignment with yourself, and that's what I write in my second book, Leadership Reset.
Welcome to our first episode of Women in Business with MoneyPetrol. Today, we're joined by someone most of you may know. She's a woman of many talents, from starting an iconic fashion brand to scaling up her family business and managing a $200 million logistic fund. Meher Mirchandani is an author, certified coach, and an entrepreneur with years of experience. With 2 books under her belt, Come Alive, Don't Just Exist, and more recently, Leadership Reset, Meher speaks passionately about conscious leadership in toxic corporate environments and growing in an established family business. So, let's begin. Meher, your journey has been truly remarkable. Thank you for sitting down with us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So, from fashion to retail and now to real estate and logistics, much like RG Group, you've built and scaled many businesses. So, what was the driving force in your journey here?
So I think it was my father and mother, frankly speaking. They both have been extremely successful individuals. My father came here in 1985, 40 years ago, with the vision of starting his first manufacturing units, which from one single unit grew to about 20 units, producing more than 1 million pieces a month for markets in Europe and US.
Right.
So seeing him so successful, I guess success was something I always wanted. I wanted to always make him proud. I wanted to make sure that I am someone he would be proud of, and as successful as him. It was like every year we would change houses, change cars. So I just, and of course, you know, the schooling system, they all teach us about outward success.
Yes.
It's all about success, validation, financial metrics. That's what is taught to us.
Right.
My mom was spiritual, and she took me actually to the temple kind of every day as a child.
Mm-hmm.
But even that was kind of minimized in front of the world, right? Because the world only talks about outward success.
Right.
So, so being successful in other people's definition was important. And that's what started. I mean, I had it all wrong. That's what I realize now. But that's what drove me. As soon as I graduated, I didn't want to waste a minute. I wanted to be a fashion designer, started my label. I was the first fashion label to originate from Dubai.
Wow, that's interesting.
In 2002.
That's quite early to be in Dubai for a fashion label, to be out there.
There were no newspapers. There was like the National and the Gulf News and the Khalij Times. That's it. There was no newspapers. There was no magazines. There was no Harper's. There was nothing. So yes, we were on the cover pages. The fashion label was named Meher and Ridima. And we were literally on the cover pages because we were the first fashion labels to originate from Dubai. So I didn't want to waste a minute. I wanted to be successful like my father and my mother, who both have their own businesses. And that's how the journey started.
Amazing. You mentioned that fashion was your dream business and you walked away from your dream business, and yet you kept moving forward. So from your early days as a professional until now, how's your definition of success has changed?
So I believe success is something you attract by the person you become. So I had a 15-year run in my fashion business, learned a lot of things, did a lot of things, was supplying to about 25 stores in the US and in the GCC, met some great people, understood the business well, did a lot of sales trips, and really learned the business. But then it was not giving me what I wanted. Like I said, maybe I had it wrong all along because I was looking for external validation, name, fame, power. That's what we see on the outside. And we measure success based on those metrics. So I was looking for all of that, but it didn't give me that kind of pleasure. It was very challenging for me actually to keep doing what I was doing. I was married at that time. I was traveling a lot to the US, to Europe for shows, and it didn't feel good. I was not peaceful. So finally I decided to put a hold on it. And when I put a hold on it, I was invited by my father to take care of the business, my family business, which is called Palmon Group. And I was made the managing director in 2012. And in 2012, I still had the fashion business. I was trying to juggle it both. But I knew I wanted to put a hold on it at that time when I decided to join my family business. And when I joined the family business, again, I had the same feeling. I didn't feel good about it. I didn't feel that this is what I wanted to do. But what I then learned once I joined the family business was that maybe I have got everything wrong. I don't think I know who I am. I don't think I know what I want in life. And if you don't know yourself, how are you going to impact the bottom line of this huge business? So that's when the real challenges started, because I was like, wow, this is a lot of responsibility laid on me to be able to turn around multiple companies. Like we had a lot of divisions. We had retail, F&B, we had furniture and fixtures, we had kitchen agencies, we had interiors. I mean, it was huge. We had a facilities management company. It was a huge business, and the profitability was on my shoulders. And when I joined the family business, I was like, something doesn't make sense to me. What is it? How am I going to make an impact when I'm not connected to myself? That realization led me to understanding what I want. Who am I truly? Who do I want to be? And who am I in the first instance? And that's when all the work started, because I was not able to do it for the first 10 years because I was just chasing success. On other people's terms, of course. So that's what actually led me, when this huge responsibility was put on me, that led me to ask further questions. I was always a seeker. I wanted more peace in life. I wanted more happiness in life, but the kind that money can't buy.
Very interesting.
So when I learned that this is not giving me happiness, I started seeking internally that what is it that I truly want. And that's what led me to the journey of theta healing, led me to work more on myself, start meditating, understanding myself, understanding what I wanted, because how can nothing make me happy? So when all of that was reflected upon, I realized there's something deeper. I need to go on deeper. I actually went ahead and did past life regression therapy, quantum healing. I went really deep because I really wanted to know the meaning of life. I wanted to know my purpose. So from all these learnings, discovery of myself, I realized that I'm missing purpose in life. So the more deeper I went, the more I wanted to find my purpose. And in fact, I did get a message in one of my sessions that my purpose is to make others understand happiness, understand fulfillment, peace. So that is my purpose. And this was way before I wrote my first book. I became a coach. So that led me to again work more on myself. And through working on myself, meditating, exercising, taking care of my mind, body, soul, I started to get more clarity on who I am. And I started releasing the beliefs of external validation, of getting more love and happiness from outside. Because I think for the first 10 years of my life, I was waiting for other people to see my success and be happy and tell me, oh, wow, oh, well done. But the fact of the matter is that you have to pat yourself at the back. You have to know that you're feeling successful, doing and being successful. But that's your own definition. It can never be defined by people.
Right.
And so that was the whole long journey when I joined the family business, to understand that what I truly want, who am I, so I can impact the bottom line. Because the bottom line and the profitability of any business is a byproduct of who you are becoming, the impact you're creating, and how many lives you're touching.
That's true. Because for sure, when you're doing business, you're not only doing it by yourself, everything. A teamwork is there. And whereas when you create an impact on the teamwork there, that's where the success is just well defined, and that speaks volumes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all about alignment.
Right.
It's about having this beautiful journey where you're impacting people, contributing to the greater community, growing people, evolving yourself, because that's what is enticing. Only
Right.
the profitability of a company, how long will that make you happy?
Right.
Once you reach a certain milestone in life or a certain target, after that it's all the same. Like when I
Right.
appeared on the Forbes magazine, the Forbes list as the next gen Indian entrepreneur, I was like, oh, is this what it feels like? Because you aspire to be there.
Right.
And everything that I had aspired to be, when I got it, when I received it, I was like, oh, this is what it feels like. So that was not good enough.
Right.
But every time I touch a child's life, I feel happy. I feel satisfied. Nobody knows about it, but I know it.
Right.
So that's the contrast. I started living and understanding myself more.
Since you mentioned, like, the world today now depends on the metrics of the validation on the outside world, and they don't really pat themselves more enough right now that we see on social media, and especially with the generation now that we are seeing in. So what's that one message would you give to this generation? Like, what should they consider when they're actually looking for something that they can work upon?
So, I tell my clients this all the time. I tell my clients this one thing: success has to be defined on your terms. Just because your brother or your friend drives a Rolls Royce, lives on the Palm, has this exotic lifestyle,
Right.
that doesn't mean that will make you successful if you achieve it. Because for me, success is having a balanced life, having a great marriage, having my children harmonious. Even in their teens, I want my children to be able to be peaceful.
Right.
So that is success for me. Going to the temple, working out, having all those things, having time for a balanced life where I'm working on my mind, body, soul. I'm working on my evolution. I'm impacting the greater community.
Right.
So this is what is success for me. I mean, if somebody takes out something from there and gives me a villa on the Palm, that'll not be okay for me. I want my family, I want my growth, I want my spirituality. That is success for me.
Well said. Amazing. So, what we've seen, and some people may consider you as a silver spoon child, you've had a privileged upbringing, we see that. So, did this affect your decision here to join the family business?
Not at all. I think it was a great responsibility put on me, which I had to carry forward and actually become better at, right? Wherever my father had reached, I needed to make sure I need to take the business to the next level, and I needed to take our purpose to the next level.
Right.
So I don't believe in nepotism. I believe that if you are given a platform, maybe it is 10 floors ahead of others or 10 steps ahead of others.
Yeah.
But then that puts you in a greater position of responsibility. So you need to do better and bigger.
Right.
So I see it as that. And that's exactly what I did in my family business. When I joined the family business, I started establishing the values of the business. I started establishing the why. What is the why? What is our purpose as a family, as a business? Where do we want to contribute? Right. And of course, what came out of it is, after multiple discussions with all the family members, we believe in girl-child education and child education.
Right.
So through our efforts, we do provide sponsorships to schools in India, Bangladesh and Nepal. And that's what drives us to move forward.
Wow, that's interesting. And so you have a foundation there?
No, we do it from Dubai, but we do it into NGOs in these countries.
In your book, you mentioned that the businesses here in Dubai are built by the expats, and now these businesses are passed on to the next generation here. So what are the challenges that you faced when there was a whole transition that was happening within the Palmon Group as well, from your dad's to you and your brothers here?
So of course it's always challenging because, things are going on as per the founder, as per what he wants, as per how he has built things, as per his systems and processes. So as soon as I joined the business, I was wanting to change things. I joined this organization called EO that gave me a lot of perspective, and it shed a lot of light on the new way of doing business, right? It's a conscious business, but it's also about systems, processes, automation, keeping the right team, the right management team to grow and scale.
Right.
So when I wanted to do that, I got a lot of pushback because there was things that were not needed, maybe because it was going on since a long time that way.
Right.
So to make any change, you need to, change is not easy for many people.
Yes.
But change is also necessary, and it's important to grow and scale. You need to change. So of course, with a lot of love and respect, I encouraged a lot of change in processes, systems, people, everything, HR policies, everything was changed. And with a lot of love and respect, I have proposed it to my father, and he was happy to have received it and change with the times. So he has been extremely adaptable, and with a great level of detachment, we have been able to grow the business to where it is now.
Because conscious leadership is not something very commonly spoken about here.
Yes.
And what we see is a very traditional way of working in family businesses. So to bring a change, it's a huge achievement in its own way.
Thank you. Yes, it is. So, previously, I do a lot of work on conscious leadership. So previously, they used to talk about business as being a battlefield. I have to win. It's about winning and losing. But the more work I did on this, the more I realized that in today's time, that's not the mindset you can adopt for a long-term success, for a long-term business. If you want to stay in business for a long term and you want to have a meaningful, fulfilling and a beautiful journey, it cannot be a battlefield where I am right and you are wrong, or I am winning and you are losing. It has to be led by stakeholder management. All stakeholders are important, and we all need to win together. And in fact, a lot of the thesis on conscious leadership speaks about how when you are conscious about taking care of all your stakeholders, you actually can triple your bottom line.
That's true. Yes.
So I'm a big believer of that, and luckily I have most of my team members are aligned to me, and my theory, my father is aligned to how we want to do business consciously, driven by a value system, and hence it is a win-win for everybody.
Amazing. By what we see it is, by end of the day, it's all about collaboration.
Absolutely.
Right. So in UAE, you pioneered the first logistics REIT here, which is the Real Estate Investment Trust. How did you come up with this idea in 2018, if I'm not wrong?
Yes.
So that was way ahead of time in UAE.
So there were a lot of REITs in the region.
Right.
And we were among the first 3 REITs to establish in UAE, but the only logistics REIT, because there were other 2 REITs approximately around the same time that were doing everything in real estate.
Okay.
But we were the only one to focus on industrial logistics and warehousing.
Okay.
And the initial idea was brought about by my brother, Kunal Lahori.
Right.
And he had proposed it to the family, and he was very passionate about it. He still is. And so we all did it together. We co-founded it together. From the first meeting we had to conceptualize this REIT. Up until now, we are together, and it's been a beautiful journey. And we are actually the best performing industrial and logistics REIT in the GCC right now.
Amazing. I'm going to go back to one of the previous questions that we discussed, because it was a long journey, and passion and purpose goes hand in hand, that you have mentioned in one of your blogs. Where was the passion? Like, where did you find that? And
people management. When I realized that the more I'm growing myself, though I'm working on myself, and the more difference I can make to the people in my organization, that's when the aha moment came. And I loved it that they started growing from the inside emotionally. They started understanding life better. They started eliminating their fears. because we would do this mindfulness meeting on a Monday morning, 30 minutes, where I would share my journey with them. I would share articles with them. We would read books together. We do a lot of work with each other. So even now I have a coach for each of my team members, where they're allowed, it's a safe space where they're allowed to speak, to discuss their challenges, their personal challenges, because we cannot separate our internal from our external. If we are unhappy internal, if we are living in fear, guilt, in limiting beliefs, then that will come up. And efficiency, performance will be impacted. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to remove or release or help them identify those things so they can work on it simultaneously. While they are working on their performance, their skill set, their efficiency at work, they should also be able to release those things from the inside to make them more free. And we still do it. We still have sessions for our team members, and it's a continuous ongoing thing. We have a coach coming in, he does some sessions, group sessions, some individual sessions, and so people feel lighter and that they're evolving always.
That's something very interesting, and I'll take that advice. So a lot of people feel that strategy is everything. Do you think that?
Not at all. I don't believe strategy is anything without execution and culture. So when you have the right culture, you're able to execute things based on the strategy. And like the new age gurus talk, that culture beats strategy any day of the week. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. So it's very, very important to understand what is your culture before you actually build your strategy.
Right. So can you give us an example here?
So, in Dubai, there was this landlord culture. And as an asset management company, when we manage assets, sometimes it's very difficult for us to navigate people. Right. But what I did in my journey in my company is that I actually go and apologize to them for things. If they say, oh, but you didn't do this, this didn't happen, that didn't happen, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. So to my customers and my tenants and my basically my clients, I have gone several times and apologized. I'm so sorry that this happened on behalf of our team.
Right.
How can I make this right for you? And immediately their energy shifts.
Right.
And this is based on the culture that we have in the company. And I act like that. And when I act, it's a total win-win. They calm down. They immediately want to renew with you. And they just give you a short list of things that are their pain points. But the whole point of business is to be able to help your clients, your tenants, your customers' pain points.
Right.
So what is the problem?
Right.
And that's what I tell my team members.
So here you're saying that strategy wouldn't have worked, but here the EQ is also more important when you run a business.
Absolutely.
And the teamwork.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So you have spoken publicly about living on autopilot and feeling hollow despite your incredible achievements here. So can you recall a specific point in your life where you felt that this was the final straw?
So actually all throughout my life, when I launched my first business, which is the fashion business, very soon after I got married, I launched my business. And actually I launched my business earlier, and then I was working on it while I got married as well. So I started facing a lot of health issues.
Okay.
Because I was not aligned with something in my life, which I didn't identify in the beginning.
Right.
But it was so bad that a cough had ripped my cartilage in my ribs. I would get like a vertigo attack. Like there were bad things that I would have to be hospitalized for. And my body was always paining, and it was my shoulders always pained. So I was in a lot of I want to say a lot of pain in my body, and there were signals and telling me that something is not right, but obviously I was not catching it. I didn't know what it was, because I was trying my best to keep striving forward and getting this successful business up and going, which was the first fashion business. But then eventually I understood, and I did a lot of work on myself. And that's when the missing piece of puzzle came through, which was self-love. I was not loving myself, right? Because if you constantly and consistently work on external validation and external success, then are you truly loving yourself is the question you have to ask yourself. Right. So that's what became clear, that I'm not loving myself for who I am. I'm chasing the success which is based on other people's terms. So when that came into light, I actually went deeper to understand what self-love is. So I identified self-love is a process of knowing yourself, understanding who you are, understanding your limiting beliefs, eliminating those beliefs, reprogramming those beliefs, and finally falling in love with ourselves. And that's what I write in my first book, Come Alive, Don't Just Exist. Because we are all existing and we are carrying forward the beliefs that maybe don't suit us or don't identify with us or do not apply to us. Because beliefs are born from other people's thinking, other people's perceptions, other people's viewpoints. And it happens to all of us because we take on our parents, our grandparents, whatever we see, hear, experience before the age of 7, we take on those beliefs and we think those are our beliefs.
Right.
So those beliefs need to be worked on.
Can you tell us an example here, if one of your beliefs that you actually reprogrammed in your life and that had a major impact?
Yeah, so the biggest one was that success has to be measured on the outside, and success is something equals to money and fame.
Right.
So I had to rework on that belief to understand that who I am, what I want.
Right.
So that's a major belief that people live with.
Right.
But I had to rework that because it was difficult for me to detach myself from that belief because I had seen my parents also be successful that way. And then you see the world's who's who, like all the fashion designers. I mean, they have arrived because they have stores, their turnovers are in $1 billion and above. So that you feel is success. But in my book I actually did the research. How many people have overdosed to death
here.
How many people have hung themselves to death because they don't know what to do with that success, because internally they're not happy. Like there's a case of Kate Spade, Alexander McQueen, and then of course a lot of celebrities because they are not working enough simultaneously on themselves. So what kind of success is that? So the definition of success is probably we have got it wrong.
Right.
I mean, how much does the school focus and emphasize on spirituality? What percent? I don't think any percent.
Not really.
So that's what we need to understand and learn.
Interesting. So you mentioned that conscious leadership that you integrated in your own business. So what were the challenges, the setbacks that you faced?
So I think a business mindset is that, even for the people who work with you, like your team members, people are like, okay, let's just pay them a higher salary and they'll do the job. Right. What I realized is that that's not the case. You need to give them a psychologically safe environment to work in. They perform, even if their pay grade is a bit less than the market. And that's what has happened. I mean, my whole team has supported us throughout. I mean, we had some business challenges where we could not raise our salaries above market or even at the par of market in the COVID period, which everybody faced challenges. So, but still, I made sure that they were feeling good when they came into the office. And even till date, my team members tell me that. And they have been with me throughout, like from 29 years to they've been with the company for 29 years. Some people have been 10. I think the newest one is 6 and the main positions. And they say that. They were like, Meher, you empowered us. You gave us the space to grow. You gave us the tools to grow. Not only business skills, but you gave us emotional skills to grow. And of course, we'll stay with you. And we would never like to go because we are getting everything here. Not only respect, love, but training on all fronts. But if the people don't feel they're in a psychologically safe environment, they leave. But most people believe that just give them the money and they'll perform.
Yeah.
It's not a slavery or a torture kind of a system. But many people do believe that as up until now.
Yes, that's true. Till date, people still have that belief that the higher you pay, the more work you get it done here.
But that's not true. Of course, there is a concept that you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. But that's not true completely. That is one concept. But what the more mature and the conscious world says, you first treat people well. Because otherwise, how much ever you pay them, they are not going to stick.
That's true. So, what would you say to the other founders and company heads watching?
I would say have a why. like Simon Sinek says, you have to live and drive your business and your life with a higher purpose. Your purpose cannot be profitability of a company, or it cannot be only towards the bottom line.
Right.
You have to make sure you are impacting not only the community that you are with, which is your first community of your team members, your stakeholders, but also the greater community. How are you impacting the world? What are you doing? Be it old age homes, child education, meals. What else can you provide? Establishing that will really drive your life and leadership into purpose.
Well said. So, having worked in family business, and when we see that it's more of a male dominated workspace, what advice would you give to the women who are navigating this space here?
Be yourself. Authentic leadership always prevails. I mean, you cannot try to be like a man when you're not. You have to be connected to yourself. You have to be in alignment with yourself. And that's what I write in my second book, Leadership Reset. It's about, for second generation entrepreneurs, it's about aligning the entire system, the entire team, from the founder to yourself to your team members. We all have to be aligned. And that's when authentic leadership really, really comes out. And everybody enjoys the journey of entrepreneurship. They enjoy the journey of life. They enjoy the journey of growing the business.
Right.
And if you want people to be engaged and invested in you, you need to invest in yourself first and then invest in the people.
Since International Women's Day is right around the corner now, what is a message that you would like to give to fellow female leaders today?
Be authentic. Be on your journey. Don't look for external validation. Validate yourself. Love yourself for who you are. And really, success and finances and money is a byproduct of who you are becoming.
Right. So, for the women entrepreneurs who lead the way, do you feel that sometimes it's, I would say, empty journey? Like people around you, the circle gets smaller. Is it true?
Frankly speaking, my kids always tell me, Mama, you have no FOMO. And so does my husband. He has no FOMO. Because we just believe that, every day has to be intentional. You have to do the best you can.
Right.
On your front to serve your business, your children, your community, yourself first. Right. So like we were having a conversation, for me, it's about having my priorities and serving those first. And that starts with me. So myself, my health, my mental health, that needs to be taken care of. So I need that in the day.
Right.
I cannot compromise on that. My sleep. So that is self. Then it is about my work. Because, I'm committed and I'm responsible for a lot of people over there, not only about the profitability, but people and the stakeholders.
Yes.
So that is my second priority. Then it's my kids. Because, I have been gifted these twin girls who are completely magnificent. So I'm super, super responsible. And then is, of course, my wider family.
Right.
And then it's social and friends and stuff. So it depends on what priority list does things come in
and fit in there.
Exactly. So once you have that priority list, then you'll be able to say no to better things without guilt.
Right.
And even if you have a smaller circle of friends or socializing, as long as they're true and genuine, that's what matters.
True.
You want to call a friend at the end of the day if you're not feeling good, and you want to be able to feel that connection without judgment.
Right.
So rather I believe smaller is better.
Smaller and the true circle.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Meher, for sharing your experiences and your journey with us. I found them truly inspiring for my own career path as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
To hear more from business leaders and female investors in the region, subscribe and stay tuned to our channel, MoneyPetrol.
RG Group. We value your investments.